Yeah. Which one? No. Sorry, yeah.
Elliott model. Well, this one is telling me to set it up. Do I decide a poll?
No, just
I see some people do.
yeah.
Like, I don't know. They don't
Put your name into a book.
You wanna, yeah, here, you fill that out.
Your names and then I'll go through and put
Hey.
Hey. No middle son. How are you doing?
Yes.
Feel free to. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
That's a, maybe 2 or 3 months. Oh, yeah.
All the way down the hill. Right here.
Yes, we can go ahead and just get started. Okay. you guys want to have it? Can you guys hear me?
No.
Nope, not at all. All right, you gotta find it. Hang on. All right, let me find it. Very quiet. I need your help well, with the mic.
Oh, yeah?
It didn't seem to do that.
Go.
There we go. Now I get it.
Check, check.
Probably turn it
Check, check, check.
All
I'll turn on the light.
Okay.
And
Might be a little too bright. Okay. Hello, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. We're respectful of everybody's time. Hopefully people can trickle in. But my name is Jordan Brooks. I am the Regional Suicide Prevention Coordinator for Region 1 and the coordinator for Lock and Talk Virginia, which is one of the sponsors of tonight's event, with along with Region 10 CSB, which is the local community services board. If you don't know about Lock and Talk, I'm just going to give you a little plug, and then I'm going to introduce these guys behind me because that's really the only reason why you're here, right? And the food later. So Lock and Talk Virginia is a suicide prevention initiative that really try to promote community conversation about mental wellness and suicide, and really try to promote, safe care of lethal means such as firearms and medications, which is why you see some resources up here. But one of the things we really started to do last year, I guess, or maybe 2 years now with the pandemic, was try to bring speakers to our communities to try to have these community conversations, not just trainings. I'm sure you guys attend those all the time, but really people that have lived experience. And which is why we have Gary and James here behind me. So hopefully, you guys can have something to take away and learn something from these guys. We also have both copies of a copy of both of their books that we're raffling off. If you make sure you put your name down in there. But we're really grateful that they're here, make the trek from Fredericksburg and Richmond to be able to share with you guys their experiences and their expertise and what they do, and hopefully, we can have a good evening. And then afterwards, we're going to have a reception kind of down there out in the little lobby area. We have catering from Pearl Island. So once we kind of wrap up the speakers, we'll move to the area for food. Okay. All right. So I'm going to introduce our speakers. So James Harris, right here in the red, is the founder of Men to Heal. So the Men to Heal initiative encourages men to pay more attention to their overall wellness, emotional, mental, and physical health. James is a licensed mental health professional and holds a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling. He's a TED Talk speaker as well as an international speaker on topics of mental health, entrepreneurship, and much more. He is the author of Man Just Express Yourself, which we have copies of tonight, and creator of the Cheesy Dates board game. And you can learn more about his movement at mentoheal.com. And right here to my left is Gary Taylor. He is an LCSW who provides individual therapy to Black men. Gary holds a bachelor's degree in psychology from VCU and a master's degree in social work from George Mason. He is the owner of Uphold 318 LLC, which is a consulting agency that focuses on educating the world about mental health with trainings, advocacy, and much more. He is also an author, a podcaster with over 11 years of experience in the field of mental health, and you can learn more about the exciting work that he does in his community at uphold318.com. And with that, I'm going to turn it over.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Yeah. So it's late in the evening. I'm an interactive person, so I will be calling on you to give me your assistance. I like participation, and we're a small, intimate crowd, which is fortunate. So I appreciate you reading my bio. I'm a husband, father, veteran as well. 8 years of Army, 2 deployments, 1 Iraq, 1 Afghanistan, and of course I'm a therapist now. And I don't take that lightly because it's not a lot of men within the field, and especially it's not a lot of Black men within the field. So I'm here doing the work. And in 2018, I created the movement Men to Heal. You can see it. And it just took off because it's a lot of men who wanted resources and didn't have resources. And of course, there's a lot of wives, partners, mothers, advocating for the men in our lives, our sons, co-workers and teammates and stuff like that. So I've just been fortunate that it's gravitated the way it's gravitated. So can anybody tell me why it's important for men to have access to mental health? It's not a trick question.
Usually they're the head of the household. Usually they're the ones that are heavy in times of emergencies, what have you. When there's a stress or there's something that needs to be sorted. Usually.
Good answer. So in a traditional sense, it's more pressures on the man, not only from the household standpoint, but also being a provider. Those additional pressures that society put on men. And that's part of the tradition of, if you follow the traditionalism. But also, you got things like accountability. It's important for other men to hold other men accountable when they're not getting physicals or when they're not talking about, things that are going on with them. Like, just imagine how many men now carry weight and then finally explode, opposed to offloading those weights, throughout. Like, once it happened, they can talk to somebody, which is another issue within society. They feel that they can't talk to people. What about breaking the cycles? We got a young person in here, my man over there. So just imagine now him being in this room and him going back to his peers and so many other people who should have started when he was about his age. I'm 36 now. So just imagine him. His parents are awesome. They got him here tonight. Just imagine how many other men could have started that young and didn't. Less suicides, less possible domestic violence or intimate partner violence, less substance use potentially. The weight that they potentially have to carry, they don't know it's okay to talk to somebody about certain things. So hopefully him being here, he realized, oh, it's okay, it's cool, I can do that. Or I got a strong support system that allow me to do that. A lot of men don't have those support systems or don't know what they don't know because of course tradition and so many other factors. So to bring awareness to it, I'm glad that you guys came out. I'm glad you were interested in filling up your toolbox just so you can help yourselves if you are a man in here, or if you're a mom or wife, or you're a manager and you work with men. So this should be able to assist you, the tools that I give, and also the tools that Trey's will give later. So a couple statistics. Men die younger than women, and they definitely die more violently, not only from self-harm, but chronic illnesses as well, because they tend to not go to the doctor and get physicals and stuff like that, which is unfortunate. 41% higher than women at this rate, so pretty much eight out of 10 leading causes of death is suicide by men. And I don't know if you guys seen a statistic a couple months ago, but teen boys now are dying at a faster rate due to suicide as well. So if we're talking more about statistics, about 1/3 of people in the U.S. are men, while over 14% of the men will experience a mental health issue. Fewer of them will get help. Only 60% of depressed men go for treatment. That's a lot. So, and what I found within doing sessions and doing speaking engagements all over the world, a lot of men still are unaware what these things look like. So when I'm in session with men or in groups, I educate them on the difference between depression, stress, and so many other things. So I see a lot of athletes, professional, college, um, and just your everyday male. And one of the things I do when I'm educating them is breaking down what those diagnoses look like. So they can't say, I'm this big athlete, depression is for cheerleaders, because that's what they say oftentimes. Or men can't get depressed. They just view it as something that's so obsolete or out of this world. But the truth is they can. And not to mention substance use issues. And of course, we talked about suicide. So, a couple definitions. This is where you guys are coming in at. I want that interactive. Can anybody tell me the definition of health? Anybody? Emotional, physical, and mental state? Spiritual? Okay. That's more mental health. So, health, the level of functioning efficiency of a living organism. So pretty much yourself, your body. Mental health is similar to what they said. The level of psychological well-being, psychological state of someone's functioning at satisfactory level, emotional behavior adjustments throughout society. So we can throw in the spiritual and the emotional in there. What about stigma? Does anybody know what stigma is?
Negative belief that someone has if you did what an idea.
Okay, I'll take it. So stigma, the disapproval of, the discrimination against, a person based on perceived social characteristics that serve to diminish them based on members of society. So just imagine how much stigma is placed on wellness for men. Whether that is, oh, you're weak if you be vulnerable, or you're soft because you're speaking about feelings and emotions and so many other things. So all of those things, the definition that you guys just helped me with, are reasons why men tend to not speak up as much as they should. So throughout the stigma, of course, it's just been tough. Men try to handle everything themselves, not knowing that there are other resources out there. So fortunate enough, again, myself and Trey and so many other men have been going forth and pushing to make it more acceptable. And of course, resources like Lock and Talk is for just these very situations. So it wouldn't escalate not only in these small communities, but just think about it on a national scale, a global scale even. I've been fortunate enough to speak in 7 different countries, and it's always something similar. Whether it's the Hispanic community with the machismo effect, which is similar to the ego here in America, and so many Native Americans have their own pocket of withholding stuff, and then of course the Asian community have their things as well of how they are supposed to hold stuff in, which is unfortunate because we're human. These things are human characteristics, and human have feelings and emotions and stuff like that. So symptoms. I'm gonna blurt out some symptoms, and you tell me if they are symptoms for a man or for a woman who is experiencing, let's say, depression, right? Because men can't get depressed. So here we go. Change in sleeping patterns. Is that man or woman? Okay, both. Change in appetite. Lack of concentration. Loss of energy. Lack of interest and pleasure. Feeling hopeless and helpless. Suicidal thoughts. Okay, we got a smart group. So normally when I do that exercise, believe it or not, people tend to say, "Oh, that's a woman. That got to be a lady," which is unfortunate because think about it. That people within this room, like realistically, if you look around, I'm sure you have a male in your life at some point. Your neighbor, your coworker, you maybe even be a parent, or sibling to a male, and to think that only women deal with these issues. Just imagine again on a bigger scale. Um, so that's why I do the exercise so people can realize and recognize that these things are not gender specific. Anybody can have that characteristic, those issues that can eat away at them. Sleeping, with whether you're having difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep, or if you're having difficulty maintaining an appetite or overeating, those things can be both. Or the anhedonia, which means you don't find interest and pleasure of activities that you used to. That can be both. What are some of the rumors that you've heard about men and mental health or just the stigma? Boys shouldn't cry. Okay. Power through it. Internalize it. Suck it up. Anybody else? Don't be weak. What about some rumors like religion? Because most of the religions put those pressures on the man as well. The man. So that can be a burden if you view it that way. If you feel that you got to live up to those expectations, in addition to like how I was raised, you can pray it away. You can leave it at the altar and stuff like that. What about history? History, that can be a rumor filled. Like if you look at the movies throughout, the man is supposed to save the woman, the man is supposed to be the breadwinner, the man is supposed to do so many other things. And of course, history from a standpoint of it's not a lot of positive influences in certain households, so those things can be an issue too for men, like trying to learn your way without the proper examples or trying to learn your way and history is telling you this is where it's supposed to be. Society put a lot of pressure on men, especially based on the views of masculinity. So to me, it's a social construct. Your views and my views of masculinity may be different. I'm cool with wearing pink. I'm cool with doing chores and cooking and stuff like that. Those are human roles and not specifically women roles or men roles. So those things can be different. All right, interaction again. Here we go. So this diagnosis, you tell me if it's a man or a woman. Let's do. Well, we pretty much did those, so y'all gonna pass it again. So I'm not even gonna do that exercise. All right, so if we're talking about treatment, what are some of the treatment options that you've heard that can be beneficial to a man or a woman going through treatment for mental health? Other men, so talking to other men.
Surrounding yourself with other men who are aware and healthy and taking care of their mental health.
I'll take that. So positive influences. Yeah. So surrounding yourself with people who are on the right track can definitely be beneficial. So the thing with that though, you have to ensure that they are in fact, a strong support system and not enablement. Because if you're on the same road of destruction I'm on, and I'm going to you for guidance, I can continue to fail, and bring you down as well. But if you are somebody of a model citizen, good standing, I can learn from you, I can grow from you, I can get that mentorship, which is a good thing. What else have you heard that's good, effective treatment? Therapy. So therapy, psychotherapy is something that I do as well as Trey. And psychotherapy is pretty much just talk therapy. You've seen it in the movies. Hollywood do a poor depiction of it, in certain movies because it's like sit right here and tell me your deepest darkest secrets and I'll send you on your way. But that's not really how it is in my sessions. I can say that, and you probably can get 5 other therapists and they'll say something different. So in my sessions, it's building rapport, it's creating a cohesive experience, a collaborative experience. So you'll want to do certain exercises, and it doesn't stop within this room. Beyond this, I'm gonna give you homework assignments. So when I see you the next session, we're gonna talk about those things. We're gonna identify different things. I'm gonna give you different interventions and stuff as well. So it's a difference. But the collaborative approach and the cohesive approach allow people to open up. And especially if it's a situation to where I'm getting services and treatment from somebody who look like me, it's a difference. So psychotherapy is definitely a good one. What about medication? Some people feel that they need medication. Some people are holistic enough to where they feel they can do without the medication. They can do, other things, mindfulness. They can do meditation. They can do yoga. They can do Zumba. They can exercise. They can journal, which are all good things. But so some of the more severe diagnoses, you definitely should have medication. I'm not against medication, but I'm not for medication. So it's up to that person and where they are. Again, there's so many different approaches that one can do, which is beneficial. So it's a lot of people now who are mindful and who are open to doing different things, which is a good thing. What else do we have? What other rumors have you heard about men and mental health?
Going to the barbershop.
Barbershop, yep. Those things happen because they feel like a safe space for the men. It's that universality, which means it's other men who are dealing with something similar or who've been through it. So that's why groups tend to be more effective for not only men, but of course veterans. Like if you known a veteran, they probably said, I don't go to therapy, I'd much rather go to the groups. Because it's that universality. It's somebody within this circle who's been through what I've been through. The same thing with the men in the barbershop. Somebody might say, oh man, I'm dealing with issues with my kid mom. Guy in the next chair, but man, I've been through it. I had to go to court too. So it's that, all right, cool. I can give more. And somebody else would then chime in too. Hey, this is what you can do. These are resources. So those things happen. The barbershop, mechanic shop, of course, locker room talk. You probably heard that before. So those definitely are good resources. But again, you want to ensure that you're taking the advice from the people. Take what you can, but it just ensure that it's valuable enough to where it's not going to put you in a deeper hole. So when it comes to gender is, of course, a critical dominant mental health and mental illness issues because gender determines the differential of power and control that men oftentimes have over women, whether we're talking from a socioeconomic standpoint, a mental health standpoint, and then just how society view it. It's a lot of people who still feel that women shouldn't get paid equal, and that level of patriarchy again contributes to issues within society, especially with men as well. Men are also 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder. So does anybody know what antisocial personality disorder is? It's not like I don't want to talk to them about it. And a lot of people think that is. But antisocial personality disorder is a psychotic disorder. So if you hear somebody say, I'm just antisocial, I'm not talking, be cautious. They're using it incorrectly. And a lot of people don't know that, So what are some of the ways that you can assist the men in your life? See them, listen to them. Yep. Get them a safe space to land. And it's not a lot of those because oftentimes it's a lot of deflection, like it's a lot of men who fear going home because they know it's going to be another issue from that partner or stressors from the kids or whatever the case is. What else we got?
Give them their time.
Their time. So
Women tend to think on themselves. I'm not saying you can't do the same, but when it comes to emotion, I have noticed that women think more openly and more outwardly about it because as we talk about this, it's not good. So in my relationship, I noticed that I can tell him exactly how I'm feeling. This is how I feel. This is what I'm doing. But for him, he goes, okay. And so it's not a shutdown. It's a pause. So, think about what he wants to respond. So really for women, we want to fix the issue immediately, but this issue women need to really work through and come to us first. And we need to be able to.
yeah, so process. It sounds like he want to process, he want to gather, he want to create a plan and you want the immediate.
Yeah, I'm just thinking he's trying to get around whatever he meant to say. But that's not true.
Yeah, I'm glad you recognize that within your relationship.
Right.
Nice. Oh yeah, that's good. So a lot of people don't recognize it, and it goes, or it stops. Like, all right, you shut down, I'm gonna shut down, and we stuck. So I'm glad you guys are, working through those things. I got a board game that can help too. Just throwing that out there. Just putting it out there. So yeah, ways to assist. Ask them how they feel. You'll be surprised of how those little words can go a long way. And it's a difference between how you feel and genuinely want the response. Because if they disclose this information or if they actually tell you, are you able to handle the answer? Are you willing to accept the answer? It might be, I don't really feel like talking right now. Or let me tell you what's going on. And now you're like, oh man, I gotta wear this now. You giving me this. So just be prepared on how that may come. And of course, somebody said this earlier, stop telling boys to man up. And let men cry if they want to cry. Crying again is not gender specific. We each have tear ducts for a reason. Withhold judgment. Like, don't judge that man for being vulnerable or being open or displaying feelings and emotions. Because again, like that one issue of being judged can have him shut down for the rest of the relationship or for a long period of time. And realistically, if you think about the men now who were judged or had issues when they were a young man age, those things stopped at that period of time. So they aged chronologically, they grew chronologically, but not maturity wise. They're still stuck on those issues. And, that's the difference between attachment styles and stuff like that. So all of that is a part of growth. So I'm glad you're willing to learn. Encourage your brothers, your fathers, and your sons to seek services. Whether that is a resource of different books or websites, or just different things like, hey, I've noticed you've been distant. I've seen this article. Check this out. You're displaying some of this stuff. Would you mind reading it? And they may, or they may not. It may take a little bit more. But don't put yourself in a position to where they feel like you're nagging or being overwhelming because that can create another issue. But you definitely want to ensure that you're helping if you can. Okay. Yes, we're definitely glad you're here so you can get this information to take back. So that should be it for me. I'm going to let Trey take over. I don't want to monopolize the function. But if anybody got any questions before I go? Yes, ma'am.
So, what is it like to be in a room talking about such an important topic and there's very few people here? How do you cope with the frustrations about that, and how do you incorporate that into your business?
So to be real with you, it's pretty easy for me now. So when she read in my bio that I speak all over the world, I literally do. I just did a TED talk in April. It's out now, but that room was, about 75, 80 different other prominent people. And last week I was in St. Lucia speaking. The week before that I was in Cali speaking, and those were what's under arena. Like it wasn't arena, which is 60,000, but it was maybe 1,500 people or so. So those ones like are easy. This one is easy too because it's smaller, it's intimate. I can look at everybody and get their questions. But those other ones, it's 1,500 people. I gotta wait till the mic get all the way back there So either way, I just want to do the work. If it was one person here, I still would deliver. I'm sure Trey's the same way. Like we just want to ensure that people have resources. So I spoke at colleges and it was in their auditorium, so it's a difference. I just want people to get the information or know that the information is out there because access and availability is an issue as well. Like it's so many men who don't speak up because they don't know it's other men out there.
You get discouraged
I don't. I think people have their own entitlements. I don't think they view it as seriously. But again, it's Charlottesville at 5 o'clock, so people getting off work and got to go home to cook and do stuff for the kids. So I view it as that. I don't view it as somebody know about it and intentionally is not coming. So it all depends. I mean, I'm sure somebody say, "Oh no, I'm not going to that," But like that, I'm sure somebody like, "Oh man, I got to work." Oh, I got to pick my daughter up. I can't even make. So it's probably give or take.
What have you noticed in differences between genders? I mean, we hear about how boys tend to be more externalizing and acting out, and maybe they're getting in trouble, and then girls are more internalizing, maybe feeling sad or helpless, and so they get help or they get offered help. Do you notice differences like that?
I do. So the discipline factor tends to be more geared towards boys when that happens. Oh, he's kicking the chair. He's not focused. He's doing whatever. We're gonna send him to detention, opposed to finding out why. I guess that's what you're saying. And again, so a lot of that too is educating society on what certain diagnoses look like. Because boys tend to act out a little bit more with anger, aggression, erratic behavior, lack of concentration. So those things can be symptoms of something greater, but if you're in a classroom with 16 other people, you just want the problem to stop. So more than likely it's go to detention opposed to go to the counselor, see what this is, or let's set a meeting with your parent or whatever and figure out, is this going on at home as well? Is this in the community as well? Or is it just this environment? Because it could be a fear of learning a certain thing or feel like all eyes on me or just being uncomfortable. Or it can be what a lot of boys face is unresolved trauma or grief, and a lot of people don't address that. Um, so it can be a series of things, but I've seen boys get disciplined for things that are out beyond their control, and that should be nurtured and processed a little bit more. Because again, a lot of people don't know that grief and trauma can look different. It can look out. It can look like acting out or reckless behavior, even with men, which is not an excuse for the reckless behavior, the substance use, the being promiscuous. Like those things can be symptoms of something, but people view it as oh, he's just a dirtbag, or he's just a hyper kid, or he's just, so all of those things, those maladaptive behaviors get grouped as being bad opposed to what's really going on with this young man or man. Anybody else? That's another benefit. It's not 50 questions. I appreciate y'all. But I do have that game for you.
I'll give another hand clap for Mr. James Harris. I told Lynchburg I call him Hustle Man because he always got multiple hustles trying to follow in his footsteps. But how y'all doing this evening? Y'all doing all right? Good. Thank y'all for coming out this evening. Thank y'all for Region 10 Lock and Talk. Joy and everybody for having us. We appreciate it again. Didn't have to go through a monsoon this time, so I worked it on out. It was clear skies. So played a little Isaac Brothers and came on in here. But my name is Gary Trey Taylor, licensed clinical social worker of Uphold 31-8, which is my organization where I provide therapy to Black men and women. I also do consulting, speaking, facilitation, things like this. Also, the second branch of my actual business. Been in the field of mental health about 11 years now. Experience stems from psychiatric inpatient, in-home, working with jails, substance abuse, nonprofit, you name it. I probably went through the whole gamut at this point. So I got to the last point of private practice because I said, I think about time I step on back because I've seen some things and went through some things. So I've seen most of the DSM-5 at this point. But so I do that. I'm a father, I'm a husband, a deacon, I'm a church community leader, podcaster, all those different things as well. So I like to bring all of that in the mix when I start talking and doing my conversations and stuff like that. And to your point about that question, right? How do we get through it? Yeah, I mean, we get discouraged. But like I told Jordan earlier, I talk to the wall. I talk to the wall all day. I podcast, I speak. I've spoken to a room with nobody there. And my thing about it is the situation, especially for us in our community as Black men. What I've gained to understand is that we'll get it when we get it. We'll get it when we want to get it. So we can't force this person and can't get upset because they don't want to, do it or listen to it or take the advice or go to therapy. They'll do it on their own time. I've seen plenty of times where I'm in session working with my men and we a year in and things are just starting to open up and things are just starting to work through. And I can speak to that myself. I can speak to that myself as a Black man because the story I told in Lynchburg, I'm going to tell today, I'm going to add some new elements to it. But as a 33-year-old mental health professional, licensed clinical social worker, I should have been in therapy in my 20s. And I've been in the field, you added up 11 years, but I've been in the field that long. And as a professional, I didn't seek therapy until 3 years ago. Now, a lot of stuff has happened from, teenage years all the way up into, where I'm at today. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. Like I can go and do the same thing with me and James do, give the education piece, psychoeducation piece. I could probably write y'all up a treatment plan right now if y'all wanted to. I can do all of that, but I like to tell the story because storytelling to me is where people connect more. And if we can do that and connect a little bit, then we can kind of hopefully see this thing bigger for what it's worth. You know what I'm saying? So, but before we do that, I like to do an activity, a mindfulness activity. Are you familiar with mindfulness? Okay. Good. So I like to do that real quick because it's the evening time. Just got off of work. It's a Tuesday. You're tired like me. You might be a little sleepy. So I wanted to kind of do this activity with y'all with some deep breathing, just to kind of get us to relax a little bit and get us a little bit more present. I think we can kind of get this ball rolling. Is that okay? Cool. So what I have people do is, and this is a group that I did starting in psych inpatient, fresh out of undergrad, and what I was doing, I just on the floor trying to figure out how I'm gonna do these groups, these 8-hour shifts. And they call it a car group, but it has extended to my mindfulness activity where I have people, especially men, visualize their favorite. At first, it was visualize your favorite car, right? I'm a big car guy. So if I wasn't a therapist, I'd be working on cars. So, and I have them visualize their favorite car for a minute and then think about it, feel it, sit in it, be with that car, right? I put my car on the board and they put that, we start talking about it and have them describe it. So throw the words out. Hey, describe the car. What it feel like? Okay, what did it feel like? What it look like? Put it on the board. And then after the fact, we'll say, do we have these feelings or emotions today? Now, granted, I get it. Being psych inpatient, Trey, like, what you mean? I ain't got none of this because I'm in here under TDO. So, but I get it, right? But what I wanted to do was in that little bit of time that I have, because 5 to 7 days, sometimes 48 hours in psych inpatient, I wanted to see if the emotions or the feelings that they had, if they had that now, or if they lost it, and where can we get it back? So for example, if you're saying that you're not happy, right, and you lost your happiness a couple of years ago, what happened? How did we get to this place? What event actually allowed that to happen, or maybe triggered it, or was it a somber moment that said that was it and my happiness and joy is gone? Sometimes some people say they have these things, they're just in a tough spot, X, Y, and Z, and that's what happened. So that's where that car group has started from. It has morphed into where I'm at today. And as much as I did that, I started in 2012, I still yield the same results. Because a lot of times we don't take the time enough to sit and listen to what our body is saying. And I incorporate that a lot in my practice with my guys, because being self-aware in mind body is important. I can't tell you what's wrong if I don't know what it is. I just know I'm upset, or I just know I'm here and something's wrong, but I can't tell you. So working through that, and like I tell a lot of guys, sometimes we get all the warning signs and we just ignore them. It's there. The red flags come up, just like on the warning sign of the vehicle. The tire monitor is on. You need to put some air in your tire pressure level. Or the oil light is on, you put some oil in the car. I'm just saying, like that's the warning sign, the same thing our body does. So all that to say, mindfulness activity, or since I've involved it, I want you to think about your favorite vacation spot or your favorite place you love to go for 1 minute. I'm gonna have you close your eyes and I'm gonna talk you and guide you through it. When you guide you through it, you don't have to respond back to me, just sit quietly and think about that. And then at the end, I will ask you a couple of questions. We'll just see where the room is at with it, and then we'll continue on. Is that cool? All right. If you are uncomfortable keeping your eyes closed, please open your eyes. I cannot hold y'all hostage to have your eyes closed. Okay. Please do that. Not trying to rob you. Okay. So, not trying to rob you. Secondly, if you have any troubles breathing deeply, you don't have to deep breathe. Just do what you can, or you don't have to at all during the activity. Okay. Is that okay? Okay. All right. So for 1 minute, I want y'all to go ahead and close your eyes real quick. Go ahead and take a slow, deep breath if you're able. I want you to visualize that favorite vacation spot, favorite place you love to go. Be present with that place. Notice what this place looks like, what this place feels like, who's there with you, who's not there with you. Just be present with this place. Eliminate all distractions, work, emails, bills. It's just you and this place. Take another slow, deep breath if you can. As you continue to think about this place, you might have some positive thoughts and negative thoughts, neutral thoughts, any type of thoughts right now. Allow those thoughts to come in. You best let those thoughts flow on. Notice when you think about this place, where do you feel it at in your body? When you think about this place, where do you feel it at in your body? And lastly, as you continue to think about this place, ask yourself, what do you feel like you need today? That could be anything. What do you feel like you need today in this moment? Take one more slow, deep breath. And open your eyes. What do you notice? Anybody?
Notice that I missed it.
You missed that place?
Yeah.
Yeah. Missed that place. Anybody else? The lighter? Good. Good. Anybody? Relax. Good.
Not that I felt bad, but I feel good.
Feel good? Yeah. Makes you feel good. Yes, absolutely. Anybody was able to pinpoint where they felt it at in their body?
Like I don't know, like felt it. Yeah.
Chest. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's one place. The body can tell a good good picture of what's going on mentally. A lot of times we hold stress on our shoulders. We wonder why we got headaches or back pain. You know, you're anxious, might get butterflies in your stomach. You're stressed out, you might feel it in your stomach or legs, anything like that. But the more aware we are, the better we can understand what's really bothering us instead of just pushing through. You know, I think, for one thing, for the situation the pandemic has done, it has slowed us down a little bit. And then we might be realizing some things that we need to take care of a little bit more. Maybe need to communicate a little bit better with our spouses, our family, our friends. We maybe need to figure out, reevaluate some things in our life and our career, medical, physical, mental, all these different things. Because I felt as though we was just racing, running all day, every day. Not even taking time to sit, relax, move from activity to activity. So I do a lot of real basic level. I don't think I'm the best therapist at all. I just build rapport and just point out the education piece around what's going on mentally with you. Because a lot of times, a lot of guys, but I think everybody, don't take the time to see how that's affecting you. So I tell a story, and I'm glad everybody participated in the activity. I hope that was good for you. You can do that on your own as well. When you want to rest, get your stuff together. I also like to tell people to do that in the morning before you start your day, instead of just getting up, running out of bed, and start your day. Take some time for yourself for a little bit before you start your day, and before you go to bed. Take a little more time. You don't have to always be in a rush, but that's my mindfulness activity that I do. And what I've learned over the last couple of years, mixed with my education, my clinical expertise, doing a Goodfellas program, which was working with Black men in this kind of support group setting, that translated into my private practice, is that this thing starts with us. It starts with us, regardless if we go into a therapist or mental health professionals, or we just everyday person working on 9 to 5. It starts with us, right? If we want to help somebody, or if we want to get them the resources that they needed, we have to also be self-aware, right? And understand what's going on with us. Because then we can also kind of pinpoint what that person is, kind of going back to the group support stuff that happens. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's where people connect more, because in certain settings, you have that shared experience. That person dealt with that, I can deal with that too. But see, if we can kind of take that and flip that to everybody, then maybe we can make some different changes around the mental health space. Because the mental health space doesn't have, it doesn't care about color at all, or orientation, anything like that. It's mental health and mental health. But with me, before I started my private practice, I was imperative that I needed to go to therapy first. Remember I told you guys, I've been in the field for about 11 years, and I should have went to therapy in my 20s, right? I recall a situation where I was going to a car show. Again, I told you I like cars. Going to a car show, and my daughter, who was like 3 or 4 at the time, was with me and my homies. She wanted to ride with me, ride with the guys, and go to the car show. And it was hot, real hot outside. Real hot. But she had said something to me, and then she started crying out of nowhere. Now, that kid, 3, 4-year-old, you understand, sometimes they cry out of nowhere, for something. She started crying, and we ended up leaving. We already stayed too late. It was already hot. So we get in the car. My daughter is in the car with us, and me, my homies. And she was like, she's still crying. I said, yo, what's going on? What's up? And me and her, I have a second car that I've been working on, and she calls it me and daddy's car. So she don't allow my wife to ride in it. It's just me and her car. So, but she was in the back seat with them, and she was like, yo, I said something to you, but you didn't respond to me. And I said, what you mean? Now, this is a 3, 4-year-old. She said, I asked you something, I told you something, you never responded to me. So then immediately my heart dropped, because here I am in this space in front of my homies, and it feels like I'm neglecting my child. She had a need that I didn't meet at all. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, man, like, because me and my wife have taught her to express herself, you know, and talk about things, come talk with mommy and daddy about certain things. And I want her to be able to be emotionally intelligent and emotionally aware. I want to set that in my household. But here I am, not being present, and I didn't meet the need of my daughter. That made me feel really upset, made me feel down as a person. But as I was going through what I was going through at that time period, I was coming off of a lot of grief and loss. Me and wife have lost multiple family members in a 5-year period from 2015 to 2020. We've lost one person a year, if not 3 at a time, from 2015 to 2020. 2015, we got married. I lost one uncle. I lost a cousin. 2016, birthed my daughter. My wife had some medical issues. 2017, she lost a grandfather. 2016, the birth of my daughter was then her grandfather passed away. 2017, we had a gap year, but she had medical issues. 2018, she lost her grandfather. I lost my grandmother. Then I lost my other grandmother at the end of the year. 2019, I lost an uncle. And in 2020, I lost another uncle. So all of this has been happening, right? And I think about the household, how I grew up, how I wanted to show up for my kids, but how past interactions, along with grief and loss, along with my own mental health, my own stress, and how me and my dad interacted as father and child. Now, I said what I said about him on the Lynchburg one. I didn't want to make him out like he's like this evil guy and we don't have a great relationship. We have a great relationship. We just hit a lot of heads. We don't communicate as well. So I wanted to make that clear. If you watch the Lynchburg one, he's not absent. He wasn't absent. He always showed up. He just only communicated 2 emotions, anger and happiness. So we hit heads. So I just wanted to make that clear. If y'all go back and watch, y'all online, or if y'all watch and go back and talk about that, crazy. But the way we grew up, right? I grew up with him, all of my grandfathers, my uncles. My uncles were like my big brothers. You know, I had one uncle who passed in 2020, who was in the street life. So he was this really hardcore, tough other uncle. They don't show no emotion. They just straight to the point with it. My grandfathers were stoic men, stoic black men. They showed love and compassion, but you didn't get too much else out of it. They, you know, patriarchs of the families. I have my dad and I have my uncles. This is what I seen as black men, a black child growing up with black men. And I've only known anger. That's comfortable for me. Like I was telling Lynchburg, I said, you know, anger has been my go-to, my comfort zone in how I express emotions. Matter of fact, happiness and showing compassion and love is uncomfortable at times. I just got used to that. But for a long time, anger was my best friend, and it's still my best friend. And me personally, I think we stigmatize anger so much, too much, instead of getting to the root cause of things, such as when we start talking, James was talking about the byproducts, the maladaptive behaviors that we see from Black boys coming out there could be byproducts of underlying conditions, unresolved grief, unresolved traumas, these things that come up. I say sometimes you see anger could be a byproduct of anxiety or depression. But when we see anger in Black men, we automatically think violent, jail, something's wrong, bipolar disorder, or you know, antisocial disorder. Where is the anger coming from? You feel what I'm saying? And so as I talk to my guys about that, talk to anybody about anger, anger to me is just the expression of an unmet need. There's a need not being met, or there's a boundary that's crossed. I can't technically really express how I'm feeling about it, or if I do, it comes off as me being weak. So I'm gonna go off. I'm gonna act out because I don't know what I'm feeling, or I'm scared to say what I want to say, and I'm just, you know, anger is that whole ego, that machismo thing. It is what it is. I'm just do like that because that's what I know. So anger was really, you know, consistent for me in my life growing up. And Joe Budden, I know he be toxic at times, you know, I get it, but one of his lines that I always really related to was he said, "Pride, I don't even succumb when defeated. All I do is get me mad and uncomfortable here." And to me, that put everything in perspective for me, how I used to grow up. A lot of people are saying, "Well, Trey, you was never this angry guy, this mad guy." Nah, I wasn't. I can come off as this, but I can go 0 to 1,000 really quick. It's really easy. And that's because what I was surrounded with and what I seen and how I'm supposed to explain my emotions as a man, how I'm supposed to be showing up and how I'm supposed to be communicating, right? And in anger, when it moves around like that, I said when I get to my household, when I'm raising my children, I don't want to display that. I don't want to be popping off like that. So let's put a pin right there and go back to another time prior with me and my dad. My dad only showed two emotions, happiness and anger. Me and his dynamic was if we get into it, we say our separate things, we go our separate ways, we come back and everything good. Or we go for a couple of days, don't talk, don't speak, and we back at it again. You want me something to eat? What you want? You know what I'm saying? You want to watch the game? That's our conversation. There was no, hey, let's work this out, let's talk about this. How did you really feel? It was, I'm your dad, I'm the head of the household, this is what I command, you respect me, it's what it is. Most of us as black men, that's how we, if we have our dad in the household, that's how we grew up. That's how their dads raised them. That's how the black household was ran. So that came down with my generation, with me and my dad, how we communicated. One time my dad was on vacation, he was just like, he wanted to take a pair of my shoes because if I got in trouble, he would take my shoes, the PlayStation, the Sega, the basketball, like all that, right? But this is like I was 16, I was working, I was doing my own thing, and he was like, "You want to take away my shoes?" And I was like, "No, you're not taking my shoes away. I work for these. You're my household." Okay, so this is my shoes I work for. I went to Kings Million, little $7.25 an hour. It's $7.25 an hour, y'all. $7.25 an hour. Went, to Foot Locker, got these J's. These are my J's. And he got mad. I got mad. My mom was like, and the rest was history. We got back together and everything was good. But there was no resolving or working through the differences. So that's how we interact. That's kind of still how we interact a little bit, but it's more in depth. And one situation happened where he did something that really pissed me off, upset me. I'm stressed out, newborn, freshly married, still going through different things, and hadn't gotten to therapy at all. And did something, I got super pissed off to the point where I cut him off. And this had been building up. At this point in time, my mom and dad had divorced, had my own personal stuff, like I said, newborn, newlywed. And we get into a conversation, and I said, well, listen, you keep doing what you're doing, you'll never see me or your granddaughter again. And that was really cold. Or I've never said that to my father. But that's how I felt. And I understood about me, if I get to this level of anger, this heightened level, there's no cutting cards. This is how I feel. I'm not apologizing for what I said. I'm not going back on my words. Whatever I said in those heat of the moments, I meant that. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times that's scary for us, and that's scary for me, but that's who I am. And I don't like getting to that point, but I know where I can go with that. And so that proceeded to do that. And we didn't talk for a month and a half, almost 2 months. I ain't call him on Christmas. I ain't call him on his birthday. I ain't call him for New Year. That's where I was at with it. There was a boundary, a hard boundary, but a boundary that I felt like I needed to set. Now, when we reconciled, I told my dad, you never taught me anything in between. I only see my dad cry once. That's when his dad passed away. Me crying was suck it up. Get over it. You don't supposed to be crying. Crying about that for. Keep moving. I was only allowed to cry at death. But like in my talking about grief and loss can be more than just losing a loved one or death. Grieve the loss of careers, friends, dreams, hopes, all of that. So as a result of that, when we reconciled, I said, yo, heck, you only taught me happiness and anger. There's no in between. So when I work with guys and we start talking about emotions where we don't have any emotions, or all I know is get upset 0 to 1,000, and there's no 75, 50, 100, there's nothing in between. That's what we want to work on to become more self-aware. Why are you getting angry? What's upset? What's upsetting you? Why are you not present enough to see what's going on? So as that was happening, we reconcile, come back to the pinpoint with my daughter. What was happening there was that I wasn't being present enough in my household. The same thing that I did not want to do in my family was starting to creep up now in my household. I wasn't present enough with my daughter. I wasn't present enough with my wife. Matter of fact, I was taking out some of my anger and frustration on them. They didn't deserve that. I was more irritable towards them, or I wouldn't be as aware of what they were saying, what they was going, and what they was doing. I wasn't aware enough. The same thing I tried so hard to avoid, try so hard as the mental health professional to do, was right here in front of me. And that really bothered me. And I started, and I always bring up that story because I think about the reflection of how things from our past and experiences with people we love, people we show up for, we care about, or as Black men, the Black men in art that raised us, how that shows up in how we show up for ourselves and how we show up in our families. So we have to address that. It's not, I understand you have to figure out that relationship and work through those traumas with your loved ones, but it starts with you. It starts with you. Because if I'm not aware or present in the moment, right? If I'm not dealing with my own stuff, then guess who's going to catch the issue, catch the byproducts of that? Who's going to catch the brunt of that? It's going to be my family. Might be puppy. Puppy might need that too. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're going to catch the brunt of me not doing the work. And yes, we can point fingers, we can point blame at who did this to us and who did that to us and what they didn't do. But now, if we are aware enough, now what do you want to do with that? If you are aware and understanding that these things are bothering you, these things are affecting you, and they're not just spilling out with you and yourself, but they're spilling out with your family, your friends, your household, then what are you going to do about it? Because you're responsible for your own actions. You can't change anybody else. And this is where I say, going back to the initial part of this conversation, was I was supposed to be in therapy in my 20s. Because of the divorce, because of my personal struggles coming out of undergraduate, grad school, self-esteem, anger, I was probably dealing with depression during my 20s. And high functioning depression or high functioning anxiety, whatever you want to call it. But I didn't decide to take that step until 2019. How much could I avoid it? And I'm not just saying therapy is the end all be all. I'm just saying being aware and stop piling and pushing down stuff that you know you need to be dealing with, that you continue to just keep walking on by. Because what's going to happen is it's going to bottle up and it's going to explode. Whether it's going to explode with you, your mental space, explode you and your your physical health, or family and friends will take the brunt, or career path will take the brunt. I'm also spiritual, so spiritually, that take the brunt too. But we have to be the ones self-aware enough to understand what's going on with us. Because if not, it starts to affect everybody else around us. So that's the one thing I tell them, especially when my guys coming in, we talk about we 8 to 10 sessions, we're doing self-awareness first. I need you to be self-aware before we start talking about what's going on, how can we change it. And then after that, we start intervening and putting interventions in and implementing different things. A lot of times, oh, I want to come in and deal with my wife. And we struggling, we dealing with this, okay? And she's doing this, she's doing that, she's doing this. How are you responding to that? How are you showing up first? Let's start with you. What are you doing to circumvent that situation? And are you aware of your own stressors and how that's spilling off into your life and spilling off to your relationship? Because I define mental health as, you know, we have the World Health Organization, the CDC definition, but I define it as how we deal with day-to-day life stressors. It took some mental health for y'all to come out here today. That's mental health. But we stigmatize it as being, you know, crazy, or you got to be this, have this illness or this diagnosis. That's the condition, the diagnostic condition that we use to charge and bill insurances. If you meet criteria, you meet criteria, but it takes a lot to meet that criteria. But mental health is every day. You woke up today. How you feel about going to work today? How you feel about getting lunch today? Bills had to be due today. I paid some bills. I had to buy some tires today. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. You know what I'm saying? Like that could be a stressor. If I'm having a bad day, if I'm not going through, and the next thing I know, I gotta buy something for my car or put gas in it. Yeah, if I put gas in it, don't be surprised if y'all see me with the EV. I'm like, dang. But you know, these are the things like that. That everyday stressor, along with past experiences, generational stuff, weighs on us every single day. It's up to us to be self-aware enough to make sure that we are present enough to know what's feeding us, what's bothering us, and what's making us respond the way making us respond the way we are. Whether that's interacting with our colleagues, our parents, our siblings, our spouses, the dog, the bill collector, the gas pump. What is driving that? And so it's on me. I am responsible for the actions and behaviors that I put out in my household. If I can take care of that, the household is better. It's a lot more healthier. But if I'm going around all irritated and being cold and distant, then the household don't thrive. I don't want that. So that's my story. One of few stories. If you stick around long enough to talk to October, my new book, Refresh from the Journey to Find Peace, will go into that more about all of that. But yeah, man, I just want to help brothers, everybody really just be more self-aware about what they're dealing with and what bothers them, so we can actively heal. It's not always have to be some serious big condition that happened. The way we can prevent big things from happening is starting small. What are you doing? And I guarantee, like I told Lynchburg too, like I guarantee y'all probably pour out more than what you pour into yourself every single day. You don't even realize it because it's standard, it's normalized. You know what I'm saying? But you got to take a step back because most of that stuff gonna wait. It ain't going nowhere. Bills ain't going nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Like none of that stuff is going nowhere. And I'm a firm believer that stress is the number one culprit. Stress is the number one culprit, especially in the diseases that mental health, but also the diseases that Black men face, Black women face, and Black communities face. Stress. You can't touch it. It's not tangible, but it wreaks havoc in our bodies mentally, physically, and spiritually. So that's all I got, man. Y'all got questions? Yeah.
Was there, for both of you, was there a pivotal moment or a series of events that led you to where you are today, the work that you're doing that you're passionate about? And is that something you can share?
For me, I was a psych inpatient and just was seeing a lot of people. There wasn't a lot of resources for Black population, Black men, Black women, and I was like, well, there needs to be some education and awareness around this, what mental health looks like for us. There's a lot of recidivism going back and forth in the hospital, this, that, and third, but people didn't know where to go. People didn't know where to get the help they needed. And of course, there's not a lot of us in mental professionals in space right now anyway. But that's what prompted me to, write my book, The Good Family, which is to kind of explain what that looks like, what it is for us, so we can kind of get some education and resources. So that's kind of going back to your first question. Also, I'm gonna talk to you. I'm gonna give you the resource. I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna podcast. I'm gonna do what I can to get that information to you. So, yeah.
I think for me, mine was more of a personal touch of not having those resources. So when I was younger, I was a ward of the state. I was in foster care and group home. My dad died when I was 5, and mom got sick with epilepsy when I was around 8 or 9. So, epilepsy is seizures. So physically, she can take care of us, but she couldn't take care of us because seizures can hit at any time. So anyway, that prompted foster care and group home. And during that process of being a ward of the state, I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, but it's since you're in the system, you got to get therapy weekly. So for me, it felt more of a check in the box opposed to an actual, let's help these people. One, I'm just a little kid from the projects, little black kid, all the therapists was older white people. And again, I felt like it was a check in the box because it wasn't cohesive. It wasn't a pleasant experience. I wasn't able to express myself and feel, display how I was actually feeling. Fast forward many years later, I emancipated myself at 16. But many years later, joined the Army, 2 deployments, one Iraq, one Afghanistan. I knew after my deployments I was different. So I wanted to do therapy again so I can be better for my family, my children, my partner, my community, just be a good person. And the same thing happened. It wasn't a cohesive experience. It wasn't no rapport building. It was a core process. And that's part of the reason why a lot of veterans, again, tend to go to groups opposed to individual therapy, because you can tell me what you learned in the book, the DSM, or you can empathize because you've been there. So for me, it was more so like, oh man, like I got to do it. I got to represent for that somebody who's in the urban community who doesn't have a therapist who look like them. I got to represent for, of course, the men to make it more relatable, and of course, I got to make it more accepting for my veterans to see, like, oh, this guy got combat experience too. Like, he can tell me the feelings that he's feeling when he's walking through a grocery store and by the meat aisle. You got that certain smell, or have the hypervigilance. You want to be sitting a certain way, or how it is coming back from a deployment and you feel disconnected from your family or don't want to go in crowds. So for me, it was more so like, let me do this just so I can, touch all of those pockets who were not being represented. And that's what it blossomed into. Anybody else? Questions for me or Trey? So Trey touched on some in his story about how he went home and was angry with the wife or somebody you mentioned. So that's called displacement. A lot of people don't know that they actually have displacement. It's a chapter in my book, which is fortunate enough that it looks like everybody will receive one since it's a small crowd. But it's a chapter in there on displacement. So displacement is, I give the example of that person that's, let's say you working, your boss is nagging or a coworker is nagging. You can't fire off at your boss or the coworker because of course you'll get fired, or EEO complaint or whatever the case is. But when you get home, the innocent wife get it or the children get it. They get all that anger that you had for the boss or the coworker. That's displacement. So opposed to giving that anger to those people, you got to figure it out why you angry, why you feel that you need to take this home. And you said oftentimes the probably movies too, like the road rage and stuff like that. But as soon as the wife is cooking dinner or the whomever is cooking dinner, you like, why are you banging the pot so loud? Or why the kids playing with these toys so loud? That's not really the issue. You're upset what the boss did, or you're upset what your coworkers did, or teammates or whatever the case is. So I just wanted to give you that.
Trying to piggyback on that.
And one thing I talk to guys about that is also understanding, okay, well, did you even take time to decompress before you went back home? Like a lot of times we just run into different activities. Like I'm pissed off at work and I'm gonna run 90 miles an hour on the road, get some steam off. That ain't working. And I'm just take it out on into the house. What are you doing to separate yourself to take time to cool down, and get yourself together from the day to go to the next activity. So I tell a lot of guys, like it's sad that you wonder why the weekend's so short because you're dealing with stresses from Monday. So you got Monday stresses on top of Tuesday, on top of Wednesday, on top of Thursday, Friday. You're trying to address all that, whatever going on all week in 24 to 48 hours. And then you wonder why the weekend's so short. So.
I have two adult sons, who are 22 and 26, and I've on good them and up around to encourage them to see the services. They're angry. They are my husband's white, and they're black, obviously, and they're angry. My husband teaches them many things, but he can't teach them how to be a black man. How to do that. And I want them to seek out someone who looks like them so that they can feel more of that kind of connection. Do mentoring, do some other things. How do you get them to get the message without nagging, without doing things just like laying books around, without trying to sprinkle fairy dust all over? What do you do to help them reach that place?
So in session, when I do couples counseling, I have this wife dragging her husband in, or I have these moms or fathers dragging our sons in. I'm gonna tell you the same thing I tell them. It's two people that we can't help. People who don't see an issue with their actions and people who don't want to change. So you can do all you can, laying around resources, giving information, whatever, until they want to see it. That's the only thing that you can do. I commend you for your efforts, but don't put yourself in a situation to where you're going to be emotionally drained, mentally drained from them, grown men not seeing that their issues are affecting other people. So sadly, it's probably going to take them, you stepping back or dad stepping back or coworkers or teammates or people in the community to say, yo, why are you so angry? Like, oh no, I'm not coming around because you're going to fly off the hook or you're going to get upset. So for me, that's more of the approach that I've seen work with men. They finally come as a last result. Why are you here? I pushed everybody away, pretty much, because those wives or moms who drag their man in, it's a lot of resistance. They take in spaces of somebody who actually want to do the work. It's going to be too much of a battle for me to say, yo, tell me what's going on. We process and we ain't getting nowhere because you're too stubborn to see that you're affecting mom or dad or your coworkers or your teammates or people in the community, if that makes sense. So you can continue to do it, but don't put yourself in a situation to where like you weren't and it's becoming emotionally frustrating or mentally frustrating for you because they're still not going to receive what they need to receive until they want it.
If I can feed into that myself, I have something similar. I grew up in a Christian household and I grew up in the Christian faith, and my husband had a completely different household. When we came together, he told me he didn't believe, and I kept pushing for 11 years for him to be baptized. And I nagged and I pushed and I dropped hints, and in every service I was on him. I just peek over. And I wasn't getting anywhere. I got us some fights. And it made me fight. And it got to the point where I was talking to my therapist and like, if he believes, what's the problem? It's just a baptism. Fucking baptism. And he went to one 30-minute meeting with the pastor after I had just gone, I truly throw my hands up. And he went to a 30-minute meeting with his pastor, and then he calls me and goes, hey, by the way, I'm getting baptized on such and such. like, what did he say? Tell me verbatim what he said. What were his words? Tell me what happened. That's not what it was. It wasn't kind of words. It was timing. It was up to him. He felt like that pastor opened that door for him, and he was able to walk through it instead of being shoved down the stairs like the wife.
And I think too, like as a loved one, we often do, like even in marriages or that parent-child relationship, we say, "Hey, look at me, just do this. You know, do what I'm doing. I'm doing this to you, you do this to me." And that's not the approach because that's not the language that they want. That's not what they want to display. You know, a lot of people don't even recognize that, especially with their marriages. It happens to disconnect between partners all the time. Like, I'm doing this, you can just do what I'm doing, you know, but that's not his or her walk. That's not his or her language. You got to meet them where they are within their language, and then it'll be a little bit more easier. That dynamic, again, like that 10 years that you spent, hey, it's another Sunday, that wasn't getting anywhere. But all he needed was, oh, it's time because I'm ready. You know, that it's no authority, it's no outside source. It's time for me, opposed to just do what I'm doing. Or here, another Sunday, nah, like you gotta wait till they're ready. So I know the mom in you is like, oh man, these are my boys. They gotta ride it for themselves. They have to see, sadly, it's probably gonna be a lot of failed relationships. It's gonna probably be a lot of issues at work, a lot of issues in public with somebody, why you looking at me or whatever, sadly, but it's gonna take them to be like, oh man, I'm tripping. Like, am I pushing people away? Like, am I really, that self-actualization has to hit. Like, am I really that bad of a guy? Oh man, did I say that to mom? I ain't mean to do that. Let me apologize. Or it's gonna take those moments for them to realize, like, oh man, she was just trying to help me. Let me see, because too many people now are telling me I have this anger thing, so but until they're ready, it's gonna be, that's what it is.
And I just want to just say, I have 3 children, and they may not all receive from you. Everybody that you talk to may not receive from you. And it could take a total stranger, it could take your sibling, it could take anybody else to speak into their lives, and they'll get it. And we can beat the horse dead, Jesus can come, everything. And if they are not open to receive from you, it doesn't matter what you do. And I learned that, get it.
And you're not the one that's intended to pass that.
And it's not. So at that point, when I try, I step back and say, you're not receiving from me. And that's when I go to mentors, I go to best friends, I go to other people to say, godparents, you know what I mean? Like, this is what's going on. She'll receive from you. You know what I mean? But you have to have that circle that understands where you're coming from to say, okay, I'll step in. Instead of, I'm not their mother, or I'm not trying to be their mother. They're not going to receive from you. Something needs to be done. They need to hear it, but they're just not going to receive. They're not going to receive it.
One of the things that I would say from a spiritual perspective on that situation that you're talking about is you got to be understanding and know if you're the one to plant the seed or if you're the one that's the water.
That's it.
And so that's one thing that has kept me, because in this field, like what we do, we want to help people all the time. Sometimes we can't help people. We might not be a good fit. They might not be ready for change. They might not be this and third. And we have to be, but then they might go somewhere else, or they might get it from somebody else, and it still helps. So we have to be open to that, And I think for them, with mom, like I think you're doing enough. And like I said earlier, we people are going to get it when they want to get it. Like I got a cousin that that I'll tell them like, hey, like it's your mental health, you go seek a therapist, this, that, and the third, but he only want to get it from me, and he can't because it's the equitable boundary. But he said he won't go to a therapist because then he can do it himself. And it's like, but you know what I talk about, that information. That's not the way to do it. So it's like, I think you're doing enough, and you put the books out there, you put the resources out there. They're gonna have to figure it out on their own, and obviously that their readiness for change has to be there first before it even happens. You know what I'm saying? Somebody might come through in water. It might be a music song. It might be a spiritual awakening or whatever. But I think you're doing what you need to do to put them in the right position. And you have to kind of take your hands off a little bit, because like sometimes the moms come to us mom, wives, and like throw them in therapy, and they just super resistant to us. Like we did something. Like it's like nah. So yeah.
So you don't have to answer this. I want you and your husband to think about this on the way home. Let's say that 10 years that you was nagging him, you said, oh, you know what? I'm tired of her nagging. I'm gonna get baptized. He did it just to appease you, right? So he went down a dry center, came up a wet center, and nothing happened. Still doing whatever it is. But when he was ready, the dynamic changed, because he wanted it. He wanted to ensure that he was walking a certain way. Like you don't have to say, oh man, like we have a good relationship or whatever, but you probably can see the difference in when he was ready opposed to doing it just when you was ready. You know what I'm saying? And oftentimes you can view that too, like your parent-child dynamic. Mom or dad want the kid to do something. They don't really want to do it, but they did it. Like think about how many people at your job right now got degrees just because our parent wanted to do it, but they disgruntled employees. They don't want to be there. They're not happy. Or how many people playing sports or whatever because they still living through dad or whatever the case is. Like, they're not really happy. So happiness is definitely important. But I'm glad that was able to unfold the way it did because he did it in his time. Not that he was against what you was telling him. It was just something that he felt that he needed to do for himself.
I like swimming, so this is one thing that I was able to relate to is swimming. A lot of people tell you that their parents threw them in and like you sink or you swim. And you will hear that story from so many people who ask them how they learned to swim. And then they have this back of their mind fear of water and they're like, how do I teach my kid to do it? Like I can't do that to my kid. And so even though they did learn it or they did do it, it wasn't gone the right way. Whereas, I've learned with my daughter, 2 years old, letting her be comfortable and take her steps and just being there to guide her and to follow behind her when she maybe needs to be turned over or what have you. That guidance is giving her the freedom to learn and to progress at her pace. And mental health is the exact same thing in my mind because you can associate physical growth with mental growth. Mm-hmm. So it's just like you would grow muscles building weights and lifting weights. Those mental muscles have to build over time as well. I mean, they're not lift as much as somebody else. But it takes time to get there.
And also we have to understand that people have the autonomy over their own lives. You may have birthed them, ma'am, you may be married to him, but at the end of the day, like he's his own individual. He's his own person. His choices are going to reflect that. Now, realistically, your son might be in a situation to where he's saying like, I don't want to disappoint mom or dad or the family name. Like you probably heard that a lot. And of course, husband probably is in a situation or in position like I'm not going to do that because that's going to disrespect my household or disrespect my wife or make it. But at the end of the day, we are our own individuals. And a marriage is two individuals coming together. But I think people forget that oftentimes. Like, do this. This is gonna help you. It might, but
I hope this was
And what I tell, the same thing I was saying earlier about like I have to control my actions and behaviors because it spills out into the household. I tell guys when they come in and talk about their wives or their spouses, this, that, and third. Let me tell y'all something. It's three things in the marriage: you, her, the marriage. Whatever you do or don't do pours into the marriage. And so then you take the marriage counseling, you do marriage counseling work on the marriage. You're not working on individual stuff. So saying, you have to be mindful of that when you start talking about how you showing up, she's doing this or she's doing that. How are you responding? Because whatever you dealing with, what you're not dealing with, or keep pushing away, is spilling out to the marriage now. Or, and going back to the other point of, your kids and autonomy. How many of y'all have struggled that got kids that y'all had to potty train? When did they get the understanding to go get potty trained? Talking to my daughter about that right now. She pushing. And she knew it, she understood it, and then we just took our hands off. Next thing you know, she did the whole thing by herself.
Maybe do it later.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Any other questions? Do you have another question?
Okay. Well, I don't have a question, but just want to make a comment. I'm really grateful and thankful for you guys for coming here tonight. I'm glad that I came. One of the things you guys mentioned a lot throughout is growth. And I feel like within these hour and a half that I have grown just a little bit. And that's where it starts. And I understand and I know it's a life journey. It's not within the next 2 weeks, within the next month. This is my entire life. To be a better husband, a better son, a better father, a better friend, a co-worker. And I appreciate that for you guys.
I appreciate you for even saying that. And to be honest with you, you not only being here, but recognizing what you just said is already going to put your children in a better position. Because that right there in itself is healthy, is holistic, because there's not too many people, specifically men, that are active on their front, sports games or to the car track or whatever the case is, but to a function to where it's potentially going to be chastising sportsmen. Why would I take my kid there? That's the perception, but I'm glad you was able to view it as an educational opportunity. And not only that, I'm glad you said that you were able to grow from it. So, which is fortunate. I'm happy that each and all of you are here, but it's a fortunate thing. So, and you're right. Growth is one of those things that you got to continue to work at, like healing. A lot of people ask me all the time, like, how do I know when I'm healed? You don't. Like, it's something that you got to process. It's no destination to healing. It's not I've done this, I've done that, I'm healed. You still got to work tomorrow. You still got to work next year. You got to work 10 years from now. Like, it's no destination to healing. It's always work that needs to be done because you are forever changing. You are forever growing. You always adding additional relationships. Right now, just think about it. In maybe 5 years, they're going to be teenagers. That's another growth stage that you're going to have to do as a parent. They're going to grow, but of course, you got to do it too because it's going to be new slang vernacular out there. It's going to be even more social media threats out there. It's going to be, so many different word views out there. So as a parent, you're going to have to continue to grow as well, evolve with them as a protection factor, as a loving factor, as a nurturing factor, Ready to eat.
Well, not really a question. I wasn't really going to say anything, but I do want to thank you guys. I just want to thank you guys. As an African American man who works inside the school system, is doing the exact same thing that you guys are doing for the high school population. It's really, really refreshing. I'm grateful to be here. Thank you guys.
Awesome. Keep doing your work, bro.
Yes, sir.
Have you gone into the high schools or elementary schools? Like, did you teaching for like the staff, the teachers?
So I've done training this summer with 2 schools down. I'm in the Richmond area, so I got a good relationship with the schools down there, and so I host functions for the administrative staff, the teachers, the counselors, and not only in ways of identifying and recognizing the mental health standpoint, but the growth standpoint, the individual, because realistically, where I'm at is probably similar here, but most of the teachers are women. But most of the issues come from the male students, so we talk about different approaches with that. We talk about the different dynamics. It's certain things that are in their control, but a lot of it is out of their control, whether the classrooms are overcrowded, whether they have the actual resources to assist these kids. Because in schools is a little bit different. My man probably knows, like, you can do everything you can in this classroom or in this office, but they going back home to a situation that might be traumatic or a situation that's so dysfunctional that these issues will still arise. So it's not a reflection on the work that you're doing as an administrative or a teacher or somebody in the community. it's their livelihood. You know, it's an abundance of things that can contribute to those issues.
So important, just that one extra question. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so difficult to change everything.
And that love too. That this might be the only time that you're going to be loved. You know, this might be the only time that you get to express yourself freely without being demonized or abused. You know, whether that's verbal or you think about it. Like in my session, so y'all know gender roles, like boys not supposed to do this and girls supposed to do whatever, right? So this thing that I did in one of my sessions with this guy who, so I'm for the project. So every Saturday morning, like if somebody got evicted, it was a mattress off. So we'll flip on the mattress. I'm sorry, y'all probably seen it on TV shows or whatever. But anyway, like I swear, a lot of the boys that I grew up with could have made the Olympics, and gymnastics and flip. But of course, gymnastics is viewed as a feminine activity. So of course, the basketball, the boxing, and football is the more dominant sport that men tend to play. But anyway, in this session, this guy was telling me like he wanted to be a gymnast. So you know, I'm probing like, why you just be a gymnast? What's the issue? His dad wanted to play football, mom wanted to play basketball. He excelled at both, got scholarships or whatever the case is. So I'm like, all right, go ahead and flip. We'll just spend our sessions flipping if you want to. You know, we can process, we can talk, we can do whatever. First 15 minutes we'll process. The last 20, 30 minutes, you can flip. So this went on he was my client for about close to 6 months. I'm not gonna say his name because he's a anyway, in that short 6 month period time frame, he realized that his passion was gymnastics, but of course he couldn't do it back then because lived through mom, lived through dad, and it just looked feminine to wear the tight suits and whatever. Long story short, this client tried out for the Olympics, got accepted, made it to the second round. So, you know, just imagine how many other young boys could be so further if they didn't have those additional stigmas or pressures of the gender society. You know, boys get teased all the time for wanting to cook. Like Gordon Ramsay make $5 million a year. You know what I'm saying? But it's viewed as a feminine thing, the easy bake oven and all that. Like those are life skills. You know what I'm saying? So, but again, those additional pressures.
We say something real quick. I'm gonna get on my policy and macro tip because from the teacher side though, right? Because I'm married to a teacher, so it's already tough enough for a teacher to teach, right? When you start to ask a teacher to be more aware of the 20, 30 kids they have in there, it's an added pressure. So there has to be. This is where mental health works in hand all through. Not just from the child who may be dealing with unresolved trauma, grief, traumatic household, traumatic upbringing, but then the mental health of the teachers who are teaching in a system that is stressful or impeding on their own career path. So that they're not aware enough to pick up on it. I'm just trying to make sure I get these numbers in so these kids can pass test or what. So I don't even say something. I might get in trouble.
All right, give these guys a hand. Thank you guys so much. So, you know, one of the reasons we really wanted to bring this discussion and have these guys come, but this right here is exactly why I wanted to do this. This conversation, these questions, and being able to ask them and hear it from them. So I'm grateful for these guys. I'm grateful for you. Thank you guys so much for this. It was awesome. So yeah, it's time to eat, right? Yeah. Okay. So we do have food set up, but I just want to give a final plug. We have some resources. Come check them out. Most likely everybody's going to be getting a copy of both of their books because I think we have the numbers, which is great. And they've both been signed by these guys. So yeah, I'm really, really grateful for these guys and really grateful for you. So thank you guys for coming out. This is really important. Good time for this discussion. So thank you guys. Look.
Yeah, so one more plug. My book is interactive. So parents, partners, it's a good tool. So what I've been encouraging people to do is highlight the different chapters that you want that male in your life to do, and then you process with them over dinner, date night, or whatever the case is. So that way it feels like a experience to enhance the relationship opposed to a chore to them. You know, it doesn't feel like you're nagging if it's something we can do together. And it's been beneficial. I'm 36 years old, and one of the reviews I have on it's either Goodreads or either Amazon. This lady said that she's been married 45 years, and that's the most her and her husband ever talked about feelings and emotions and stuff like that. So they've been married 10 years longer than I've been born. You know, so it's a good tool. So definitely, you know, being that most of you will get a copy, it's definitely a good tool.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Okay, so food is going to